Yes, Eric Gibaud, yeah, yes. How? Is it worth buying a reflex camera DSLR in 2023? Oh, I receive this question about 10 times a day, but I'm going to answer to everybody in this video. Is it worth buying a reflex camera, digital reflex camera DSLR in 2023? So let's start. If we speak about reflex cameras, well, that's a bit difficult. We speak about survivors. Canon has announced they stopped making reflex camera. They still have some for sale, okay? Same thing for Nikon. Pentax makes only reflex cameras. And then you have this kind of mix, which is Sony with the A mount, which is a see-through mirror in there, but there's no movement on it. Is it really a reflex camera or not? Not sure. So the big discussion, if we speak about new cameras, no, I don't speak about secondhand, okay? We look at, well, I will, but right now I'm not speaking about secondhand. We look at Canon, Nikon, or Pentax, basically, okay? Some people are a bit lost because now there is so much mirrorless that some people don't even know what reflex is. Reflex camera has a mirror inside. I know some people call semi-reflex for bridge cameras. This is salesman bullshit, okay? No, that doesn't. This is not semi-reflex. Only could be called semi-reflex. Maybe would be the Sony A mount with the see-through transparent mirror. Maybe, okay? I don't know, but really that doesn't exist, okay? Reflex has a mirror that swivel when you shoot, okay? And mirrorless has no mirror. Basically, this is the difference. This video is not about if one is better than the other. The question is it still worth it to buy a reflex camera in 2023, okay? So, until recently, it was a lot more expensive to buy a mirrorless camera than a reflex camera. But things have changed quite a bit because Canon and Nikon, they've issued new mirrorless cameras that are cheaper, okay, than before. And now you look at it and you're big down right now. The 90D, for example, I'll give you the price in Europe, okay? 1,300 euros. And the R7, 1,600 euros. 300 different, yeah, it's a lot, but it's not as much as before, okay? A Canon 5D Mark IV, 2,300 euros. And an R6 Mark II, 2,900 euros. Yes, there is some difference, but they're not the same year and they have new technology always. So the difference is not as big as before, okay? If we look at the Canon 850D, which is T7i, 949 euros, but the R10 is just 100 euros higher, 1,059 euros. So really, it's not as much difference as before. And when we look at Nikon, the D7500 costs about 1,100 euros, but the Z50, 999 euros, which is cheaper. If we look at the Nikon D850, 3,229 euros, and the Z7 Mark II, which would be the equivalent, not really, but well, the closest, okay, 3,549 euros. So that's not much difference anymore. The D780, 2,399 euros, and the equivalent would be the Z6 Mark II. It's cheaper, 2,349 euros. So the difference is not as big anymore. If you look at Pentax, Pentax doesn't have any mirrorless to compare with, but price is really attractive now. They've dropped price. The K1 Mark II is 1,700 euros. The K3 Mark III, 1,700 euros also, which is a lot more recent camera, and the K70, 800 euros. So it's hard to compare with Pentax, okay? But when we look at Canon and Nikon, the difference is not as big anymore. If we look at Canon entry level, the D2000, which is T7 in some countries, it costs 420 euros, or the M50, 620 euros. Here you do see a difference, okay? So it really depends on the level of cameras you're choosing. Where you will see a big difference is actually in lenses. If we look at Canon, if you want autofocus lens, in mirrorless RF mount, it has to be Canon because they did not allow Sigma or Tamron and any other third party to make lenses. So that's a steep price where you look at it. That's more expensive than reflex lenses. Nikon, also more expensive. Obviously, you can use an adapter and put reflex EF and EFS lenses on your Canon RF. Same thing on Nikon Z with an adapter, the Z adapter. You can actually, I think it's called Z, I can't remember. You can use reflex lenses. That's okay if you already had these lenses, but for me it's a nonsense to buy a mirrorless camera and then buy reflex lenses with an adapter and make it bigger, more heavy and everything. So doesn't make sense. For me, if you go mirrorless, you go mirrorless, unless you want to use a lens you already had, but not buy a mirrorless body and some reflex lenses, okay? But where I really see a big difference is when you actually look at second-hand markets, because you realize that the prices are so low in second-hand with reflex lenses, so low, lower in reflex lenses and also in reflex bodies, then actually you can get better bodies for the same price. For the price of a Canon M50, for example, you probably get a Nikon D7200 or 7500 second-hand, okay? So you say, well, that's a better body, better build, better many things. I'm crossing brand here, Nikon with Canon, but you can search within the same brand, okay? Not much problem. In second-hand, you really have massive opportunities, okay? I think so. And if you want reflex, looking at Pentax, their camera are brilliant, okay? And the price is really good, really attractive now. You will notice that in general, reflex lenses are a lot cheaper, or at least cheaper, for equivalent quality. So if you're on a tight budget, reflex is still the best choice when you're going to add to the body lenses, obviously. And second-hand, the amount of second-hand lenses is massive. Option, third-party lenses, so many things. Okay, so in this case, yeah, if you're on a tight budget, reflex is a really good choice. And also take into account that depends on which country, in which country you live. If you're attracted by mirrorless and you think away from Sony, Canon, and Nikon, and you were thinking about Lumix, Olympus, or OM System, Fujifilm, they don't always have technical service in your country when Canon and Nikon have everywhere. So that's maybe a better choice. It's hard to decide anyway. So I think, is it worth getting a reflex camera? Well, if you're a typical photographer that knows how to expose, doesn't need to know the exposure beforehand, looking at the picture how it will be made, okay? You can discover after triggering. Yeah, reflex is fine. If you're a fan of using live view, well, reflex is not that fine. You don't have any flash on live view because it's thought for video, not really for making pictures, so it's better to go mirrorless. If you want to make videos, nowadays it doesn't make sense to make videos with the reflex camera, in my opinion. It makes more sense to use a mirrorless camera. They have more fancy things, help to actually expose properly and frame and all this. So honestly, I would prefer to use a mirrorless camera for video, okay? But if you're a really true photographer, not true, but a really classical photographer who doesn't mind not having all these mirrorless help you get, that's fine. I know that many people think about the IBIS on Canon and Nikon reflex camera. There's no IBIS. The stabilization has to be in the lens. But Pentax has body stabilization on their reflex cameras, okay? But if you not really need of stabilization, or a lens stabilization is fine to you, that's okay to have a reflex camera. And also a point where I think it's really worth getting a reflex camera still, in these two brands, okay, these three brands, mainly Nikon and Canon, is on APS-C cameras, because I think Canon and Nikon, they didn't do their work on APS-C mirrorless cameras. They don't have much cameras, and also they don't have many lenses for this. You pay extra for full frame lens that will work on your RF mount on your R7, for example, okay? But still, you're paying a plus for something you don't actually need, okay? You can get an APS-C lens for that, RF mount. Same thing with Nikon, with the Z50, for example. They don't have that many lenses for that camera, okay? You can get the normal Z lenses for full frame, but they're not stabilized, and the Z50 has no stabilization in the body. So, well, okay. So for me, reflex camera are still a great choice if you know how to expose, know how to make picture, and also if you're going to buy second-hand, you can save a lot of money and get a lot better camera, better built, better many things with the equivalent. For example, I spoke about the 5D Mark IV before, the Canon. New, it was that price, but second-hand, you find them for 1,200 euros or less, okay? 1,500 euros sometimes, depends where you look, okay? A mirrorless in this brand that gives as much is hard to find. You have to buy new or second-hand also, but if you buy new, you will not get this quality for that price, okay? So then it's really worth it, okay? So my answer is simple. If you can afford any camera, buy the one you want, and probably it will be mirrorless. Nowadays I would buy mirrorless, okay? But if you're on a tight budget or you want a lot better camera than what your budget can afford, then yes, look at reflex cameras. There's still many opportunities yet. And don't worry, if this camera could make the picture you made 10 years ago, you still make the same picture, same wedding, the same portrait, the same everything. If it could make it 10 years ago, it can make it today, okay? So don't worry about this. If you buy secondhand, just make sure the shutter count is fine and the state of the condition of the camera is fine, all this, but otherwise, go for it. So yes, in 2023, reflex camera are still worth it if you know which one you buy and how you're going to use it and what you want to do and the budget you have, okay? So this is my answer. So thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you like it. If you feel it may interest other people, please share it on social networks. If you have not done it yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Small button down here is a small bell. If you click on the bell, get notified when I upload a new video. My website, ericgibaud.com. If you have any question, can leave a comment below. Also leave you links of my gear on Amazon, links of everything I reviewed by K&F Concept, Sandmarc, and Flashes by Westcott, and also a link to my PayPal account in case you wanted to make a donation. Thank you very much. Please take care of yourself and see you soon. Bye.